Corporate stories, we like them. It's a relatively low cost overall commercial that you just tell the story of what's going on. Probably one of the ones that I think of all the time with corporate storytelling is the helpful Honda people. They're selling cars, folks. They're selling cars with cheap, cheesy advertising. Oh my gosh, the helpful Honda people in 2007, about 50 Honda dealerships in Southern California launched an experiment, a cheap, cost saving amateur advertising campaign. Here's what happened. Instead of spending anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000 for a radio commercial, or even more for a television commercial, they decided to launch a $50,000 commercial. And hey, let's get some of our regular people that work at the dealership to sit down and just talk about Honda. Let's all get matching shirts. The blue helpful Honda people, will label it that. And then let's do things to help the community. You know what? This Girl Scout group, they can't go to camp this year. We're going to send the entire troop to camp and cover all the costs, all $17,000. Normally, their normal budget would be huge. And then let's edit it another $20,000. So for $40,000, they're doing an entire commercial. They launch it and they like it. They like it when a corporation helps people in the community that it's selling the product to. Oh, and by the way, we sell cars too. We help this over here, but we sell cars too. Okay, and it works. We like it. If we didn't like it, they'd stop doing it, but it's still going nonstop because of the fact that we like the aspect when a corporation pays attention to us and they're out there. Burt's Bees, there's old Bert in his pickup truck. Bert is out there with his long, scraggly beard out in the middle of nowhere, this pickup truck. You can't see the fact he's got a Bentley and a Rolls Royce behind that pickup truck because he's a multi-millionaire because he did such a good advertising job. He's just a good old boy. I can identify with that. Listen, this is probably one of the very best corporate stories out there. It tells a story about Bert and his partner. They went out and they started something in Maine, and they got beeswax across the entire country. They have billions of dollars in the process. What happens, though, is there's an emotional connection that happens. You know, they've done a lot of experimentation on the aspect of what happens with advertising. Part of our brain fires whenever we see all the points that we normally have. Ding, 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 ding. Cost savings, this overhaul development. And so part of it, but then you tell the story and all of a sudden the entire brain engages and both sides of the brain are engaging and you're making an emotional connection and an analytical connection all at the same time. We identify with the characters. We feel some kind of resonance with them. We have an engagement. It captures our attention. I remember when I used to growing up, I'd go into grandma's kitchen and I could smell the sense of home back in Italy. Oh, it smelled so good. And I enjoyed the smell of it and the flavor of it. I try to capture that every single day when I walk into the kitchen here of our 7 different restaurants we have, all dedicated to my grandma. And her picture hangs in every single kitchen. Oh my gosh, that's a good story. It's not true, but it's a good story. So that means that, so we have this inspiration. It motivates us. It provides a source of relatable lessons because a lot of us have connections like that or wish we did. So people that connect with the stories, that emotional resonance with the story itself, it triggers those emotions and that has a lasting impact. All of a sudden now, even though you've never seen the owner of the restaurant, you can identify certain things with them that maybe you had in your life as well. That engagement, it really enhances our memory of that store that was over there. You may not remember so much the address, you may not remember the name, but you remember that, yeah, that Italian restaurant over there, I kind of like them. You don't know why you like them, except you have a connection with them. It's relatable. Real life experiences, we see them in the stories with that personal connection. It captivates the audience, it holds their attention, and a well-told story encourages active listening and participation. You know, there was one guy, he used to run, in essence, a New York sandwich shop right over here in Mission Viejo. He was the corniest guy. He would go out and he would talk to his customers. Even during rush hour, if everything was fine and didn't need behind the counter, he'd tell the worst jokes. I mean, they had the worst dad jokes. You think my jokes are bad. His jokes are 10 times worse. and they were corny, they were hokey. The first time he walked into the store, he says, by the way, on that sandwich is our bestseller, and we always have ketchup with it. You want some? And then before I could respond, he pointed a ketchup bottle at my sandwich, and then he pointed at me the last second and squirted it, and red stuff squirted out. It was crepe paper. It didn't look good on a white shirt. Unfortunately, it just fell off. So he thought it was funny. I thought it was offensive, but it came back. I listened to his corny stories, and yes, they were corny. Yes, they weren't even close to being really funny, except for the fact that when he left, about 2 years later, by the time it was all done, he sold it to his #1 cook. The store went belly up. That store relied upon him and that personality and those corny jokes that he had, because she couldn't do it. She just couldn't emerge from being the cook in the back room into being that personality out front. And the store was built on his personality an awful lot. Stories convey messages in a memorable, impactful way. The lessons learned can influence behavior, decisions as to what we do, how we respond, where we go. It enhances communication because it conveys a sense of values, mission, goals. Yes, that man, his stories were really corny. Yes, they weren't even seriously funny, except he was making an effort to connect. And that's what people remembered. They knew his name, they knew that store, and New York Deli belonged to him, and his story carried with it. He connected with customers with an emotional connection and fostered loyalty. Some of the roles that we have, they communicate values, they communicate brands. Consistent storytelling builds a strong, recognizable brand. This is what I believe in. What I remember over here, what we did over here, the reason we have this project going over here, the reason SpaceX is over here, we intend to do multiple different things in the process. We want to make certain that we connect with just about everybody possible. So that let's look in the aspect of stories. They simplify complex messages, make them understandable. Stories add a human touch to the corporate communications. And that being said, the relationships, they have huge connections with the customers. It leads to brand loyalty, advocacy. They set the business apart by showcasing its unique journey in helping you as the customer. That differentiation plays a huge role. A lot of times internally, it engages employees as well. You create a corporate culture by engaging employees. There's a story once of a guy, he's on his way up in an elevator, and he had just done a fabulous account, and the accountant is grilling him, the chief financial officer, so that the head accountant's grilling him, and he mentions the fact that, we have this whole thing. He says, well, isn't that confidential? He says, yeah, but I'm just sharing you because of your role. They fired him because of the fact that the guy shared something that was supposed to be confidential with the customer, with the CFO. Those things should be confidential. Nobody knows if the story's true or not because of the fact that it's one of those things of the culture that's in the fabric of the story. Nordstrom's has a famous story of a gal at the Nordstrom store in Michigan. And so a customer came in with a pair of worn up, beat up boots, leather boots, swearing up and down he bought them at Nordstrom. And no matter what happens, how she tried to dissuade him. And finally, she gave him a refund for the boots that he never bought at any Nordstrom ever. They never sold that brand of boot. She issued a refund check for $79, a story that he claimed 10 years ago he bought those boots back. And he ended up coming back the next day spending 4 times that amount in the store. And the truth of the matter, by the time it was all done, they praised her because of the fact that she did above and beyond, because their story is the customer's always right. Even though this customer could never have possibly been right, it didn't matter. She took care of that customer, and the customer's a loyal person ever since. Sometimes the stories, they get woven into the very fiber of the corporation, and you don't know myth from reality. You do know, though, the fact that it stays around is that they have a value system, and corporate stories explain that value system. They inspire, motivate teams. They say, we need to do it just like she did. Yes. And she became a legendary hero inside of Nordstrom because she went above and beyond. We like corporate stories. Employees like corporate stories. The community likes corporate stories. A lot of times we'll sit down and talk about the business, and what's significant about it is because I remember my roots. I get identified as my grandmother's cooking too. Yeah, we had Thanksgiving every year. The table was full of food. And even if it wasn't true, you wish it was so. So you wish, and you start connecting with people, even though it's a corporation, even though it's where you work, you start connecting with people. It's a great storytelling in the aspect of a tool to help build connections inside the business and outside the business. You bring them all in. And we like them because of that emotional connection it creates each and every single time. Take care.